Yesterday we spoke about mind and methods to affect it. Today we will speak about intelligence and importance of intelligence in our life. What intelligence existence is. According to the Vedic knowledge, there are 5 functions of mind: doubt, misapprehension, correct apprehension, memory, and sleep. Correct apprehension appears in intelligence that is not affected by the false ego. We spoke on the first lecture that a person is aware of himself as a personality due to 2 inner aspects: false ego that makes our mind self-preserve and live for itself, and there is true ego when a person wants to bring happiness to other people. According to the Vedic knowledge, a person focused on himself always suffers. This idea of being focused on yourself causes sufferings. But if a person is selfless and he serves others, he receives happiness. And the Vedic culture pays much attention to attempt to overcome egoism and to work for the benefit of others. We discussed that egoism brings all sorts of pains to a person. For example, even doshas, all these disorders in our body are connected to egoism. If a person has bad attitude, in his gross and subtle body, problems occur just because of it. So correct view of life and attitude are the most important things of our existence. With a right attitude, one can defeat his diseases and fate. So, correct apprehension is intelligence not contaminated with egoism. Contaminated intelligence looks like pride or illusion, misunderstanding. Humble mind is the one unaffected by egoism. Humbleness is the quality that allows a person to see the world soberly. For example, in relationships between spouses, unless there is humbleness, they suffer greatly. And sufferings occur because each one wants something of his own. If we study and argue between spouses, we see that it happens because each one wants to enjoy the other. And if only one of two started to serve, he would have forgiven, and all problems would have been solved. When we put our principles above our spouse, that is contaminated intelligence by egoism. That is pride, impudence, undesire to accept other person's opinion, his views. The point is that correct apprehension means humble position, optimism, endeavor to study, to achieve knowledge. According to the ancient Vedic views, most of all, a person lacks knowledge of how to live, and the deeper the person understands oneself, the happier he is. On a bodily platform, when a person thinks that he is this body, His mind is set on self-destruction, because time ages all the time. It's what time does. And when consciousness considers itself a body, the person always fights this feeling of loss. He fights for his existence. He tries to defeat this life in some manner. We can see it in the movies. When characters are scared, there is some shooting, but in the end there is victory. But once there's victory, another shooting comes. This fear comes because a person is focused on himself as a body. Bodily concept increases four basic instincts of self-preservation. These are: desire of comfort gets extremely strong. A person needs better and better circumstances to live. As a result, he works really hard because he needs money for comfort. That is bodily concept. Because a person who has higher concept is not bothered with these things much. His soul is more of interest to him. The next instinct is strong attachment to food. He wants food. He cannot live without food. And if something is wrong, he has problems with his body. This strong reaction to presence or absence of food, that is a sign of bodily concept, and the consciousness is going the wrong way. There is this instinct to eat too much. It becomes crazy, and unless people do not eat on time, they suffer, and when they eat too much. It destroys health. The next is sex. The person constantly thinks about sex, and these thoughts make all his mental energy go down, and men get various inflammatory diseases of genital organs. These are very common in the modern society, and they come from attachment for sex that is cultivated as basis of life and love. But in fact, it is just a disease. It has nothing to do with love. True love is heartly relationships, not sexual. And the more sex, the less heartly relationships. There is a joke. Sex is not a reason to get acquainted. We know that when a person wants sex, he often destroys his family and his life. And the fourth desire that appears as a result of attachment to the body is sleep. A person wants to sleep. We see that people are very attached to their body, are constantly bothered with it, and devote much time to it. Some shaping, working out, and things like that. On the one hand, it seems that this person preserves his health, but it all can cause serious problems, not just physically, but also mentally. We know that teenagers, girls and boys of 17 and 18 are crazy about their body. Girls starve to save their body and ruin their health. And boys take anabolics to have bigger muscles, and that anabolic steroids make them impotent. That is a disease. strong attachment to the body, and it makes body unhealthy, because the more you are focused on your body, the more sensitive you are. Here is a simple example. If a person is very worried about her face, she applies some creams. Along with it, she fills her skin with false ego, and because egoism is connected to pain, where there is egoism, there is pain. Because of strong focus on face, skin sensitivity gets higher and higher. As a result, there is intolerance to creams and irritation of skin, constant. High skin sensitivity indicates much egoism. You must also know these subtle things, that often a person who has some problem with health caused it by his wrong attitude and mood. If you constantly think about your face, it will become sick in time. Doctors and psychologists notice that, and they recommend people to get distracted from their body, not to think about it too much. When speaking of egoism, women naturally have strong egoism in their skin. It is inbuilt by nature, and women should wear softer clothes to have no irritation and no mental insatisfaction, and colors should suit her well. And man's egoism goes into prana, psychical energy. So if you ask a woman to do something, she will easily do it. But if you ask a man, it is very hard for him, unless he wants to do it. For example, if your husband comes back home and you ask him to wash the floor, it's a big problem. It is hard for him to make him do it. His egoism is in movement. Similarly, for a woman, it is very hard to wear what it does not suit her. That means egoism is in different structures and it acts this way. It causes suffering. Thus, you can see that it is very hard for a woman to sleep in an unknown environment, to move from one house to another, and for a man it is extremely hard to do what he is not meant to do. So the goal of intelligence is to set psyche free of undesirable influences that cause diseases. And a man must study how to live right. Studying means filling intelligence with this force that allows to control yourself, because the subtle body of intelligence, as described in the Vedic scriptures, control all functions of mind with the energy of happiness. Everyone wants happiness. Energy of happiness is required by mind to fill all the organs with it. Each organ needs happiness, our whole body. And also, happiness is needed in relationships and in fate of our relatives. If a relative of ours feels bad, our heart hurts because we spend our energy to help them. We are in a closed system. This world is filled with relationships, and so everyone around us needs our energy, and also we do. Just to digest food, we need energy. Therefore, happiness demands happiness all the time. And happiness comes just by fate, from the depths of our mind. If the period is good, we feel fine. On the phone, how are you doing? I'm good. That means good period of life, no sufferings coming out. If the answer is, it's all bad, then there are sufferings. That is one way of receiving happiness, just as it comes. Even to fall asleep, you must be well. You need happiness to fall asleep. We need happiness. One source is our fate. If there is a good astrological period, it happens naturally. And the second way to receive happiness is through intelligence. Intelligence must have a goal in life. In fact, it always does, but some goals are temporary. Goal gives happiness. Goal is like a dream. For example, how do you see your goal? It is what your dream is. If you dream to build a house, then constantly when you feel bad, you think about the house and want to build a bigger one. You make it so and you feel better. That means happiness comes. If a person is connected to his goal in life, he constantly receives happiness from it. Women often make their children the goal of their life because naturally happiness comes from children. Women are always with their children, they kiss them on their behinds. No one kisses old ladies on their behinds, only small children, because they emanate energy of happiness. And when the woman is attached to this energy of happiness from her child, she does not notice how she makes him the goal of her life. It could have been good if it were right, because she only wants to enjoy her child. She does not want to do something right for him, and she may be unconscious about it. There are two feelings. One is taking care of your child and devoting your life to him, and it can be hurtful because sometimes you have to do things that neither you nor your child likes, but you have to. And the second is just enjoying your child. And when the mother enjoys her child and sees goal of her life in him, here is what happens. When the child is good, the mother is also good. And she is scared to punish him because he will feel bad and there will be no more enjoyment. And when the child feels bad, she cannot take it because she wants to enjoy. And he is crying. He does not give happiness. And she becomes angry. There is no teaching. We either spoil our child or we are angry with him. There is no teaching because there is dependency on the energy of happiness coming from the child. What is a true mother's love? Mother should be detached from this energy. She must do what is right. For example, he wants ice cream in the evening, and he is sick, and she denies him ice cream. But if she is attached and he asks for ice cream, she feels there is going to be an argument, and she yields. She gives him ice cream, and he is sick on the following day. And she screams, "It's your fault!" But children have no intelligence. Intelligence only activates later in life. Children have intelligence, but it's inactive. The mother must understand what happens to the child. He does not know. He only learns to live. And the mother must also study how to live. She must learn how to treat her child correctly and what is destructive. If your child is the goal of life, then the child will be very impudent. The same is when you believe in your husband. You can only believe in God. You must be faithful to your husband. That means to stay with him no matter what he does, and you teach him That's faithfulness. But when you believe in your husband, that means you have God in your home. When a person believes blindly in another person, that results in pride. I know such examples when a wife believes so badly in her husband that he got a second wife. He considered himself so elevated that he needed more wives. And the first wife said that that was because she was sinful and he was very deserving, so he got himself a lover. That is incorrect understanding of the goal of life. If there is a wrong goal set, the result is very sad. The Vedas recommend to study carefully what is the right goal of life. For example, a student has a goal to receive a doctor's degree. Of course, it's important, but it is not the goal of life. But if the degree is the goal, then every mark this student gets is extremely important to him. It is interesting that when a person studies a subject, he just needs to be interested in it and a bit detached to learn it. If the student's goal is just studying, just the degree, what happens? He is very afraid to fail to learn it. His psyche is overloaded when he studies. I'm telling you my experience. My psyche was so overloaded, my head was boiling, and I could not memorize anything, and I had to learn why it happened. I readjusted, I detached myself, and I started to study calmly but with interest, and my life became much easier. Your psyche is boiling when you cannot memorize something because your goal of life is studying. Similarly, a woman sets a goal to get married. She thinks constantly about that, and what happens to her? Her face becomes sad and unpretty, and her eyes sunken. And who would marry her like that? Everyone wants pretty and happy. This topic is very important. Intelligence receives happiness from the goal of life. If a person has the wrong goal, the result will be like this. First he will feel some happiness coming, but then one event can ruin his whole life. I studied this very carefully and seriously after a certain event in my life, and I had a stress for a year and a half, and I studied my condition very carefully. It's in my nature to study everything that happens, and studying your own experience is the easiest. I noticed that if a person sets the wrong goal in his life, then inevitably there comes an event that destroys his goal, his idea, and the person gets into a terrible mental condition that he cannot get out of, because the goal of life is the basis of whole person's existence. All his strength came from there, and if the goal is destroyed, there is a stress. A person loses his life, he does not have his path, he wants to come back to was in the past, but it just gets worse. For example, a mother believed in her child. Time comes, the child turns 13 or 14, and naturally he gets detached from parents. He dreams of love, he's attached to his friends, he falls in love, and parents are not so important. This is a natural effect of detachment for all children. Just imagine a 7-year-old child loves his parents very much because he is very dependent. And at 14, he is not that dependent. He gets detached. But if the mother had her child as the goal of life, she becomes terribly stressed. She really feels that she loses her child, that he does not love her as he used to, and that causes big problems in psyche. And that woman actually ruins her child's life. Here is how it happens. It's not so bad if this child does not find someone, but if he falls in love at 14 or 16, what happens? The mother sees that the love she had with her child now belongs to someone else, and she is extremely jealous. The child is searching for his close person in life, but this jealousy stands in the way. The mother in advance hates the one her child falls in love with, and the child gets even more detached, and he ruins relationships with her. There is an interesting phenomenon. Women are often happy with their children's happiness. My mother calls me often, "How are you, my son?" "Mama, I'm fine." "Is it really?" "Yes, really." "Are you sure you're not ill?" "It is all fine." You see, if it is okay for sure, she is relaxed. The mother lives with her child's happiness. And how is it supposed to be? She must pray for him so that it was all fine. She must not receive happiness from him, but she must give happiness. You see that? There is this problem when the goal is wrong. If the child is the goal of light, then the mother must feel happiness from him. But if we have a higher goal of life, like God or the absolute truth, something higher, holiness, then happiness goes from there and we pass it on. This is called positive motivation on higher humanitarian values. This is my scientific work, my doctoral thesis. All my lectures were based on this. I cannot claim that this is my theme. This is the theme that was described in the Vedas 5,000 years ago. This is the way a person must live. When the person thinks of higher values, then his life becomes normal, because there is a source of happiness. When the person has this right source of happiness, his life becomes good. The right source is holiness, purity. God may feel too far. It is hard for us to understand who He is, but there are people who know it. There are saints, there are scriptures, and when the person gains happiness from these pure sources, where there is kindness, beauty, a lot of important values. And when the person associates with people who obtain happiness from these high spiritual values, then the person receives endless source of energy. That is enough for everything, for his whole life and business. And as a result of this meditation that I perform also at my lectures, we wish everyone happiness and we meditate on holiness, on some exalted personality, on scriptures, on some holy place. This meditation calms the psyche down very well, gives a lot of strength, gives ability to overcome difficulties, and people who cultivate this mood, who listen to the lectures, they change their life very greatly. We collected statistics, we made a survey. Let me open the file. we conducted a survey and over 800 people answered our questions. We made a good questionnaire. 826 people in total, and we studied the results. We made calculations to see the statistical data, and here is what we found out. Out of 826 people, only 28% had been listening to the lectures for 6 months, 20% for over 2 years, 18% under 1 year, and 17% from 1 to 2 years. 13% came for the first time to the lecture. 3.5% could not answer to this question. It is interesting that about 3/4 of respondents were women. Only 1/4 are men at the lectures. 70% of women and 30% of men. And changes in women happened 2 times quicker than in men. Men are 2 times more slow. Women are affected by knowledge greater. They change their life more quickly. Men do it slower, but the result stays longer. Male and female minds are different. The survey showed that 67% of respondents improved their family relationships. 67% of lectures attendees, but also there were 13% that came for the first time, so the actual figure is higher. 67% improved their family relationships, 48% of respondents improved work relationships, 65% improved lifestyle and health, 69% improved daily routine, and as for bad habits, in general, this is the figure that indicates good, stable result. 39% of respondents gave up bad habits. But actually there was an even better statistics. As for family relationships, 36% improved relationships with spouses, 45% with parents, and 17% with children. I am not going to name all the figures, just a bit more about alcohol consumption, because this is a great problem in our society. Many people suffer of alcoholism, and the figures are scary. As a result of lectures attending, many people gave up alcohol consumption completely. Only 3% did not respond. These were people who came for the first time. All the rest had improvement after lectures. Those who listened to the lectures for over 2 years, out of them, 26% gave up alcohol consumption completely. 1 to 2 years, 16%. 6 to 12 months, 18%. 3 to 6 months, 12%. Less than 3 months, 18%. These figures are very impressive because no addiction clinic can boast such results, that about 50% of people who consume alcohol give it up completely, because most narcologists drink themselves a little. So for them, there is no speaking about giving up alcohol completely. Out of all people who used to consume alcohol, 254 people reduced consumption and 308 gave up alcohol completely. Of course, not all of respondents originally drank, and similar statistics is about 50% of people gave up smoking. And those who continue to smoke reduced their dosage. If you wonder why I pay so much attention to it, here is why. Over 400,000 people die of alcohol in our country annually, and 400,000 people die of tobacco smoking, most of them in middle age. It's 800,000 people in total. I guess that is more than... How much is population of Chelyabinsk? 1 million. Well, imagine such a town as Chelyabinsk dies out of alcohol and tobacco annually. Well, a bit less. Imagine it. That's annually. 1 year, 1 town less. This is what happens in our country, just because there is not enough knowledge and information about what alcohol is and how it affects people. What's its danger? Moreover, most people do not even know that it is easy to give up drinking. You just need to find the right way, and the Vedas explain the right way. It's very easy. Human intelligence changes its goal in life with sound. If a person listens to the one who lives right, his life changes naturally. He adopts faith and proper understanding of things, and the source of happiness is also passed on from one person to another. Why do people drink? Because he depends on happiness that comes from alcohol. And what does alcohol do to the person? It makes him feel well. Euphoria. According to the Vedas, this euphoria comes from spirits, actual spirits that are in alcohol. That is mental disease. According to the Vedas, all mental diseases are caused by spirits, ghosts. When a person drinks, he becomes spirited. He is under influence of spirits. Similarly, smoking. But this effect is different. It is not a happy sensation that comes into the heart, but calming. A person smokes when he cannot relax, and cigarettes affect his mind, and the person becomes calm. So happiness for drinkers and calmness for smokers. If a person is really attached to alcohol, all other goals of life fall off because they are much harder to achieve. Alcohol is easy. You drink and you feel fine. You do not need to work to strive for something. You drink and you're good. And this cheap goal attracts people very much. And if people have easy access to alcohol, then this goal, alcohol, sets very fast in their consciousness. In all developed countries like America, in many countries of Europe, it is hard to buy alcohol. You need to make an effort. You see that? Here it is easy. It is valuable and a lot of advertisement. And all this warning on posters that smoking kills you, it's also cheating, because there is this well-known expert in neuro-linguistic programming, Robert Dilts. He made a study of negative motivation, and the results were shocking. It appears that the more information about the problem, like smoking kills, we speak about the problem more. It gives adverse effect. It fixes people's attention to this problem. People get interesting, and the situation is out of control. The result is opposite. The more information about the problem, the bigger the problem. The problem grows and it's out of control. And this phenomenon is in the basis of smoking is not just harmful. Smoking kills. Let's make it worse. Let's give more information, scare people, and as a result, people smoke more. This is scientifically proven fact. And the reason is that fear is an instinct that fixes consciousness on the problem. This fear makes a person smoke more because he does not know how to give it up. A person smokes, he learns that it kills, and he gets scared and smokes even more because that is protective mechanism. Smoking calms down. You see this sign and you calm down. What does ancient knowledge offer? Any philosophy in any religion? There is just one recipe: positive motivation. You must motivate person to study how to live correctly. You must set a higher goal in people's lives. When we set the high goal, it gives very pure, bright force to our consciousness. Our mind feeds on it. There is an example in the Vedas. When a person had honey, he does not eat sugar. If the person receives higher, sweeter taste, then all the bad things fall off on their own. When I asked people who attended my lectures how they gave up drinking, they did not even know. It happened naturally. When I asked how they quitted smoking, it happened naturally. If someone does it consciously, quitting it is extremely difficult. I tell people not to think about it. I tell them to have a drink if they feel like, but they must think of higher things and self-improve. And once a person's view of life changes, he is disgusted to stand to a drunken person, because his life is completely different. People are disgusted with ignorant food, alcohol, cigarettes. It's disgusting to consciousness. After a person had a higher taste of good association, of temple attendance, all these lower things are disgusting, things that contaminate his consciousness. That's no secret that a person who had a drink is not so elevated, he is a bit disgusting. And this is a lower taste. When there is a higher taste, all the bad things fall off on their own. Positive motivation on higher humanitarian values. This method has always existed in this world, and this is the recipe that will help us solve many problems of the modern society. If you look at what is going on now in this world, you will see that most TV shows give no positive motivation. I am not speaking about higher humanitarian values. Instead of broadcasting bad news, good news must be broadcasted. Who achieved perfection, saintly people, where people can be treated well, where there are charities. Imagine if people will look daily how charity feeds children. Everyone will go and feed children. When people see a positive example, the result is positive. I only know a few movies that are really heart-touching and make people better, like the Island movie, and all the rest help no one. They are just meant to bring out animal instincts in people. Movies are sex, fear, food, and comfortable life. For example, Santa Barbara TV show. Constantly beauty, food and sex, and people buy it. And there must be many emotions and many negativeness to shake people up. People watch it and there is no self-improvement. There are no spiritual and morally good movies or songs now. People suffer much, they are depressed. I remember when I was young, I was about 20, there were such amazing songs. And when I hear something now, it is nothing in comparison. If you listen to these old songs like Песняры, our soul rejoices, and now it is just different nonsense that gives no happiness, only animal feelings. There is no morality in songs or movies. The news are all negative. All shows are scandalous that bring out painful feelings between relatives and society. And this constant intimidation leads to mass psychosis. It leads to people losing higher values in life and just surviving, thinking about money, thinking about survival. Animal instincts are developed. And the same goes on the topic of family relationships. Factually, there is no knowledge of how to preserve family in the modern society. Statistically, there are 80% of divorces in our country. So if two people got married, there is an 80% possibility there will be a divorce. There is only one country with higher percentage. In Ukraine, it's 86%. And in Europe, 40 to 60% of divorces in different countries of Europe. and in India 1%. Just for you to know what happens in our country. And the reason is absence of knowledge how to live right. Children are not taught morality at schools. They are taught maths and chemistry. We teach our children to work and not to live. Work is only outer part of our life because a person lives in his heart, with his heart. We need to know how to live. If a person does not know how to save a family, how to pray to God, how to eat right, how can he be happy and healthy? We must teach people to do that, and that is the important aspect of our society development, and in particular personal development. And this topic of intelligence treatment is very important. But if we speak of spiritual and religious traditions, even if people are taught to believe in God, at the same time they are taught religious fights. Our faith is good and all the rest are bad. And believers become scared. They are afraid of each other. I once passed a synagogue in Moscow. There was a man with a beard and he screamed, "Jews, get out of our country!" next to a synagogue. Why did he do that? Would it make him understand God better to chastise other religions? This means illiteracy, lack of education. Spiritual education is culture and tolerance. I pointed out all these difficulties and problems of this topic, intelligence development, for us to know how much work we have to do. Surely we must be calm and positive. Desire to fight gives bad results. I like the way Lev Tolstoy saw this. He just educated people. He fought with no one. Because in that time there were socialistic ideas that we should not change ourselves, but others, and if they won't change, they must be murdered. But Lev Tolstoy suggested we first change our heart, and then those in touch will also change. And you will help people as much as you were destined. First you change your heart and then others. Let's go back to intelligence functions that were described in Srimad Bhagavatam. It's an ancient scripture. Correct apprehension is the goal of intelligence. When intelligence knows what is right, heart calms down, because when intelligence is connected to the good energy source, all body, all psyche of a person blooms. The person feels that he goes the right way. Good knowledge gives satisfaction to the heart. And here are criteria of true knowledge. The Vedas say that true knowledge is tested with time. If this knowledge was not destroyed in time, it is true. All false knowledge is checked on practice and then rejected. We know that there are scriptures that have been here for 2,000 or 3,000 years and they can be trusted. The next criteria is that true knowledge makes people elevated and saintly. If a person follows some knowledge and his life becomes better, this knowledge is true. The third criteria is that heart rejoices when the person studies this knowledge. The fourth criteria a person's life changes. The person follows knowledge and has real changes in life. He can overcome bad habits, he can improve relationships, health, etc. That is the criteria of true knowledge. Knowledge affects consciousness and there are changes in life. It's a fact. So, correct apprehension is what intelligence strives for, the truth. It is needed for life to be happy, because mind feeds on happiness that comes from intelligence. Next, the second function of intelligence is misapprehension. All people tend to be mistaken because we cannot understand everything completely. Misapprehension is natural. It causes dissatisfaction in the heart. The first sign that you live wrong is dissatisfaction. People often try to tune down their dissatisfaction, that is, in the mode of goodness. People in different modes take dissatisfaction differently. First option, ignorance. People tune down dissatisfaction with alcohol, cigarettes, different entertaining movies, gambling, now plus the internet, sex. These are basic methods to ignore your dissatisfaction. Drugs, alcohol, yes. This is ignorant way of living. By doing so, the person degrades. Next, option 2. What else is there to do with dissatisfaction? To find some knowledge, that's option 3. And option 2 is in the mode of passion. Come on, think. The second way is to consider that we do not tune our dissatisfaction down. We know that we have dissatisfaction and now we need to know where it came from. Passionate people think that dissatisfaction comes from outside, that everyone around are bad and guilty. It's someone else's fault. Often when a person is in a bad mood, he just needs to find the guilty one. It is not clear, but surely I'm in a bad mood, so someone must be blamed for it. And once he finds there is a relief. That is self-deception. But this deception makes life even worse, because when the person constantly searches for causes outside, he ruins relationships and his life. All people become his enemies. For example, if a person does not like his job and he does not want to work, it's boss's fault, and the result? Termination. No more work. You blame it on your boss and you get fired. That is not a way to live. And why does it appear? Because the most difficult part in a person's life is to self-improve. It is a great idea to teach everyone around, spouses, children, friends. That is a great idea. We teach everyone, but we do not want to improve ourselves. And that's the whole problem. In fact, when a person comes to self-realization, only then normal life starts for him, because the first thing that happens when you blame it on yourself, there is satisfaction in the heart. When there is the right path, it is really light in the heart. In our heart, there is this interesting indicator. There are two souls in our body, our individual soul and super soul, that is representative of God. We call it voice of conscious, voice of the truth. It is not our force. There are these practices, by the way. Auto-suggestion. I am the sun, I am the big bright sun, I am happiness. But that is self-deception, because when a person does something right, he becomes happy. When he does, happiness only comes from conscious in the heart. But we cannot make our conscious think that we are good. That is self-deception. We mute it down. If someone speaks next to me, I can speak louder and not hear him. But then dissatisfaction reappears. It seemed like he has already become good, but there is dissatisfaction again. And some thought comes out of your heart, like, why don't you love your husband if you're so good a person? When a person starts self-improvement, his life becomes better. He becomes happy and calm, because the only goal of our life is to change ourselves. We were born here to change ourselves. And misapprehension leads to the following function of intelligence, that is called doubt. Doubt or dissatisfaction. We've already discussed correct apprehension that gives happiness. Second, misapprehension. Sometimes a person goes the wrong way. And then there is the third function, doubt. First, dissatisfaction and then doubt. Because then, where is dissatisfaction, a person starts to think. For example, there are problems with a husband, and there is this thought, a doubt. Maybe I married the wrong person. That is option 2, mode of passion. And the first option is just to have a drink, to forget it all. But that changes nothing. Most people use oblivion. They do not want to analyze what happens. Something's wrong, I just watch TV, I have a massage to release pressure. People try to forget everything, but dissatisfaction comes back. You're going the wrong way. And then, after experiencing dissatisfaction many times, the next way comes. That's it, I married the wrong person. There are doubts. And the third and the only correct option is you must start thinking, maybe I do something wrong. Doubts lead to turn for the truth, otherwise life will go wrong. The next function of intelligence is memory. That is amazing and unique. In the ancient scriptures, it is written that people who self-improve and self-realize think it extremely important. In our psyche, naturally, there is memory of bad things, of negativity. For example, something bad happens and we are strongly focused on it. For example, I received a salary for 10 years monthly, but then 1 month I was told that there was going to be no salary. My mind is focused on absence of salary, and I conclude that it is bad to work there because there is a delay, but there were no delays for 10 years. This is how mind works. Negative information crosses out everything good that was before. Negative information enters our consciousness and stays there, and it is hard to cast it out. And as people constantly receive this negative experience, they feel that everything is bad. But the reason is just that the person does not self-improve, because the goal of self-improvement is to get filled with positivity and cast away everything negative. I was asked a question once on this topic about relationships between spouses. Oleg Gennadievich, you say a bit wrong, because you must see the person soberly. Soberly means you see both negative and positive. And here is the answer. I studied the scriptures on this topic, and they said that sober assessment comes when a person focuses all his mental activity on positive. Then he can take both positive and negative. Otherwise, negative will always prevail. And there is no sober assessment. Sobriety appears when a person only searches for positive things in the other person, and then he can take both positive and negative. Same goes for forecasting. If a person sees the future but does not do spiritual practice, which means concentration on pure and bright, if a person feels the future, he feels the time, and he does not do spiritual practice, then all his forecasts are bad. All predictions tend to be very negative. On this account, I may say that I saw the end of the world at 2012. In this village where I live now, there was no electricity in the second part of the day, exactly on the day when the end of the world was supposed to happen. No light. You see, we live in craziness, and this craziness of these predictions indicate wrong direction of the consciousness in general. I have been following End of the World since 1996. That was the year I first thought of the end of the world in the year 2000. Then, in 2001, when two buildings went down, there was supposed to be a nuclear war due to Vanga predictions. We got seriously prepared for 2012. 3 years in advance, there was this Hollywood movie, and mass psychosis happened. That ended in everyone forgetting about it, that there was supposed to be an end in the world in 2012. You see, our psyche is attached to negativity very strongly. I studied it closely in 2003 or 4, when another mass psychosis happened. I made an experiment. I did not watch any news. I watched no news about the end of the world, about these twin buildings. I just did not watch it. and my psyche was perfectly normal. But then when mass psychosis went down, about 6 months later, I saved all these videos and I watched the news about twin buildings going down, this TV host with a crazy voice and eyes. I watched it and I felt terrible. I contacted this energy and my psyche went sideways. This is so forceful, this negative information, especially on the level of the whole earth. This information turns your brain down, and in the ancient culture, distributing bad news was considered very wrong. People were punished for it. If there was some bad news going, people did not spread it. It was punishable. So, the goal of people who try to help others is positive motivation. You must aim a person at happiness, about things that bring happiness. You should not focus on bad things. It's a disease, especially if it is about things important to us. For example, children are important on us. Do not focus on dangers in your child's life. Thus you will tune your child's psyche negatively. Because children have weak intelligence and they live in fear as it is. And if the mother is always afraid, then child's intelligence is even worse. He lives due to his instincts. He does not develop. Negative motivation is what we should fight against. The goal of any spiritual practice is to focus on bright and holy. This method works really easily. First, you meditate on purity and light. You pick an object, a picture of a holy person, a scripture, holy ground. There should be holiness. The person receives a very strong, bright feeling in his heart. And next, he brings this feeling into relationships with all people. Because every day our relationships traumatize us. There are some troubles and they get into our heart and they imprison our consciousness. But when the person has this purity and light inside that comes from a scripture or a holy person, he can pass this positive energy on. And memory is very important in this process. You must really remember what is good and positive. This is the fourth function of intelligence, memory. Memory allows a person to be victorious in his life. The person must remember what helps him to live and saves him in difficult times. When a person is tuned negatively, what happens to his intelligence? There is a breakdown. Intelligence is broken, especially when a person gets scared. In all martial arts texts, a lot of attention is paid to the fact that you fight on behalf of light, that you are going to win anyway. Even if you lose, still you will go to higher planets. A warrior had his mind set on inner victory. He was positive, because when the warrior experiences fear in fight, he is destroyed. He loses his intelligence, focus, and he just does things that lead to defeat. In extreme situations in life, when there are difficult tests, A person must be careful not to let fear inside his heart. He must set his mind positively on victory, that everything is going to be fine, and then the heart will find the way out, because our psyche feels where it's good or bad. If the person sees that everything is bad, that means he sees the amount of his work, and it's great. Like, my husband left me, it is all bad. There are two options. First, fear, that means you will be able to do nothing, and that's defeat. And the second option is you contact the source of happiness. You pray, you read scriptures, you contact a saint. Everyone's psyche works differently, and accordingly there is a method. But you must meditate on purity and light, because holiness is the source of perfect purity and good. And when the person meditates on it, faith is naturally restored in his heart. Faith means connection to the source of happiness. When the person feels this connection, he can stand under the blow of fate. Husband left, there is much work. When there is a lot of positive force inside, the blow can be taken, and the wife knows how much work she has. The amount of work can be surmountable or not. If the wife knows that she cannot work that much, she is calm, because she knows there is no way out. And if it's surmountable amount of work, she is also calm. She will pray 5 or 6 hours a day, and she will overcome her fate. What I'm telling you, I used in my life. It works. Gradually, your life is defeated with inner life, with spiritual work. The feeling of calamity leaves heart, and there is victory. And in your life, it becomes true. It's a historical fact that Sergei Radonezhsky prayed for 2 weeks during Kulikovskaya fight. He did not sleep or eat, and he saw and felt what was going on the battlefield. And once the battle was over, he was extremely tired and he went to sleep. But it was victory. The inner life is what all scriptures recommend. Inner life defeats fate. Unfortunately, modern psychology does not know it, and people are advised to play happiness. What is that? This play of happiness. It is described in the Vedas really simply. There is also comparative description. For example, in Gujarat state there are deserts and sand hills, and between these hills there are a lot of passages, and there are ostriches and tigers. And tigers like ostriches very much, but not the other way around. And when an ostrich sees a tiger and cannot run away, there is an interesting action. The ostrich sticks his head into sand and feels safe, because there is no tiger in view. But the tiger does not need ostrich's head, it needs the rest. And that is where it bites. What is the method of modern psychology? Often people have no relationships, because relationships are inside your heart, that is inner life. You must learn to feel the other person, to overcome problems and negativeness that is accumulated. And people are advised to have some behavior. Just smile to each other, ask for forgiveness, behave right, and everything will be fine. What is the mistake of this thinking? First, it is impossible to behave right if you feel pain. I give an example. For example, when you are hurt, try to calm down. You feel bad, but calm down. What's the problem? I suggest such psychologist sticks a needle into his behind and calms down. Just pretend you feel no pain. There is a needle in behind, and you are not hurt. It does not work. There are two options, either to slap on the hand so that the needle came out, or, if it's impossible, just to forgive. When a person forgives, there is less pain, but it is more difficult to forgive than just to break free. The point is that this behavioral method does not work when problems are grave. You must sit down and forgive your close person, and if you are able to, your relationships get better. And you must pray on until you forgive. Simple behavior does not work. This artificial American smile that came out of modern psychological approach, where we try to behave well, you know, this strange American smile is the scourge of this whole system. We smile, but our eyes are dissatisfied, but we still smile, and we try to force something out of us. People build relationships in their hearts. No matter what we show, it is clear what's in the heart. For example, a student is passing an exam. If the professor is good and kind, he sees clearly whether the student knows the subject. The student comes out and it is all written in his face. It is very easy to see whether he studied or not. It is all clear. Do you agree with me? And what are the three types of behavior? First, I do not care whether you see it or not. Second is try to pretend in a way. And the third is to say honestly, I did my best, but I am not well prepared. Please understand me. And the professor takes it better in this case. And if the student speaks with respect, then there will be a good result. What's the point? It is much better to open your heart than to pretend. Inner life works 100%. Intelligence development means inner life. The next function of intelligence is also interesting. It's sleep. In fact, often mostly use this function. Sleep is an integral part of intelligence because intelligence searches for happiness all day. Mind does not sleep. It works constantly because it has to feed our whole body, and when we sleep we have dreams. Our mind is always active. Only intelligence sleeps. When a person falls asleep, what can't he do? He cannot improve himself. His will turns off. And willpower is an integral part of intelligence. But we can see that some people try to fall asleep forever. This desire to drink alcohol, to take drugs, to gamble, to watch bad movies. Once in Moscow, I observed a very interesting scene in Gorky Park. There is an amusement ride. It's a boat, it goes always. First it just swings, but everyone is fastened up really tight. This boat swings and swings, and then it makes a full circle. And then it stops at the top and goes another way, and then it falls. It is so exciting. I watched it. People were screaming like crazy. crazy. It was scary to watch these people, and I noticed the girl who screamed the loudest. When she got off, I asked her if she liked it, and she said, "Very much." And the reason she liked that was that she got relaxed. These terrible screams give relaxation, and so people go on these rides. Another interesting thing, there is a big pillar, 20 stories high. People see it on the sides, their feet are in the air, they see a beautiful view and then they fall almost to the ground. Free fall. People scream like crazy. The point is that all these methods are from hopelessness. We do not know how intelligence functions. We do not know how to feel better, and so people do some weird things. The only way what is right to do is described in all practices in Eastern medicine. These practices are all the same. That is contemplation. A person goes inside. Yoga, Tsegun, Ushu, meditation, all these practices are targeted at distracting from outer sources of information and go inside. This emerge is what leads to victory. Because when the person goes inside himself, he really sees what problem is. He realizes it. There is Mauna practice. There are these retreats held near Moscow. Very many people want to come there. And they are just silent the whole time. They chant prayers in their mind. They eat very little and they sit still for a long time. It is prohibited to speak. In 2 or 3 days, the psyche is in a great strain because a person realizes all his problems. He used to run away from them and then he knows it all. But as this practice is correct and there is a way to solve these problems, there is spiritual music, everyone sits in meditations for 5 hours a day, and after about 10 days, of Mauna, the person feels great, his psyche is calm, there is happiness in the heart and great purification. It's enough to fly for 6 months, because negativity is accumulated in a period of time. But I think it is much better to meditate daily, not to accumulate. You get down in the morning and meditate. It is best to do it aloud because when a person chants, there is direct contact with intelligence. Let me remind you about connection between intelligence and senses. Sound and hearing are connected to intelligence and also haptic sense. A person who wants to purify his perception of the world must take a shower before praying and put clean clothes on. He must be clean to the touch. The next sense is vision, is connected to mind. You should not look at wrong things. When a person meditates, eyes should be half closed, and there must be an object of meditation in front. Mind should be calm and happy. It is better to look at the object of meditation, because when the person closes his eyes, he sees his thoughts and problems. There is no running away from them. You close your eyes and there is life inside. And for the mind to stay focused, it is best to engage it, not to stop it. When the mind is engaged in worshipping to a holy person, it cannot be distracted. Happiness goes from the object of meditation, and it is all great. The next is gustatory sense, taste. It is connected to prana, and in all spiritual cultures there is sanctified food that engages taste, and the person receives prana. One person told me how he visited Christian holy places in Valam. He saw many things, many different temples. He liked it all. But then one priest in the evening gave him milk from a monastery cow and bread that he baked with his own hands, with prayer. And this person cried when he ate it. His experience was stronger than from everything he saw. Taste affects our psyche really forcefully, if it is pure. Do not underestimate this point. I know many examples when women cured their husbands of alcoholism just by feeding them with sanctified food. That has great effect on psyche. And the last is sense of smell. It is connected to the gross body. And it is also engaged in meditation with essential oils. There are plants that have pure goodness energy. These are libinum, sandal, mint, saffron, and some other. Herbs help purify our consciousness. They are normally sweet because sweet is in the mode of goodness. It is best to have aroma lamps because incense gives smoke and some people are intolerable to it. But tiny amounts of essential oils evaporated create good atmosphere. The best way to prepare your meditation is have a place for meditation. You must sit still. Any movement distracts your mind. There are certain poses that give mind focus. I'm going to name them. The first is standing still. It gives decisiveness. I saw on many occasions in night vigils in Christian temples people standing still. Just imagine it. A few people stand still. First, the whole body goes numb, and then there is relief. Do you remember cleansing channels? That's how it happens. Still position, and then there is lightness in the whole body, a lot of inspiration. Some people even fall, but you must get through this point when it is difficult before you feel relief. But these people who can do it, stand and concentrate on spiritual, gain big decisiveness in life. The next position is standing on your knees. This pose gives penance. You become humble. Involuntarily, a person falls on his knees before his object of worship. That's a sign of humbleness. Next is the diamond pose or Vajrasana in yoga, sitting on your heels. This pose gives decisiveness to reach the goal and stability of mind. So when a person needs to distance himself from something in life, he sits before the altar on his heels. He meditates and prays, and in this time he receives ability to win, to move in the right direction. I use it often. But the condition is that you must sit in position for a long time until your body gets numb and then relaxes. Some people cannot do it at once. If you feel it is hard to sit like that, you may shift your position. But it is perfect if you overcome this difficulty in prayer, your nadis are opened and you feel like you had a breakthrough. Those who do yoga experienced it. You do some pose, first you get numb, and then suddenly it is light and easy. That means nadis get unclogged, and this gives health. The next pose is Padmasana, or lotus pose. It is an amazing pose when you fold your legs like this. You cannot do it unexpertly. You can harm your knees or joints. You must train, you must learn to do it, and this pose gives you high concentration. In this position, mind becomes like a rod. It is great for meditation, calmness, focus, overcoming yourself. Padmasana is perfect. Half lotus. Half lotus or Sukhasana do not give that much concentration. It does not give you concentration. There is this position, but rarely people can do it. A person sits and his feet are together. That is powerful. Feet are together, the soles are pressed one to another. Few people can sit like that. Yes, and you just sit still in this pose. Then self-control is increased. You can overcome your bad habits by sitting like that. The psyche is under control. Would you like to see Padmasana? Oh, your legs are crossed. You just sit like that. That does not give much concentration. The diamond pose, you see your buttocks on your heels. You stand on your knees and then you sit down. And the back must always be straight, because when a person hunches up a little bit, concentration goes down at once. Similarly, when a person rocks back and forth, concentration also goes down. It is very hard to accept it at first, but you must not move. It is extremely helpful. The next position, your legs go like this, one behind another. It is the thinker's pose. A person who sits like this has meditative logic developed, or ability to approach the truth. These are the basic poses. If you get tired, you can change your pose. But if you just walk, you have no emerging inside yourself. When one walks, his thinking is very active, and you are distracted. When a person walks, it is good to think about your life, but if you want to defeat in your life, you must be seated. It is very important to know that the most powerful meditation is the method described in the Vedas as adoption of knowledge. Adoption of knowledge happens during meditation or prayer like this. The person listens to the recorded voice of a saint or some exalted person, and he prays, he chants just like him, in the same mood, not in the same voice and rhythm. You will feel it. You do not need to chant as fast, but you must adopt the mood. And when you read your prayer like that, in just a few minutes there will be strength and enthusiasm in your heart. This method is very seriously described. Through sound, the state of intelligence is passed on. When the person believes in someone and during prayer he listens to his voice, his psyche is tuned in the same way and he gets the same strength. This is reflected truth. In order to get the truth in your heart, see now, the truth is normally gained from personal experience, and it depends on fate. And people are often imprisoned by their fate. But there is an amazing ability in human intelligence. If a person believes in someone, he does not leave his fate. He lives with the force of the one he believes in. This is reflected knowledge. First, the person reflects, he does the same, and we know how it happens in children. They copy their parents, and it works really fast. If a person studies a foreign language and he copies the one he talks to, he does it very quickly, much faster than studying on his own, because along with language he receives inspiration and taste to speak like this. So native speaker is very important. And it's the same in work of intelligence. When you pray, you need someone who can really pray, who can defeat his fate with sound. And when we listen to such person and pray the same, the first effect is reflected understanding of the truth. The truth is the same inside you, but it is reflected. You cannot pray on your own as well as you pray with that person. This reflected condition lasts for some time. When you pray along with a holy person, in some time there are irreversible changes in the heart for good. After a while, the person can change his fate on his own, not as well, but on himself. So, initially, it is good to pray at least next to a music player, so that you could play the voice of an elevated person. Surely it is better to do it in person. That is why people visit holy places, to pray next to those who have strength. That's important. I'll explain it. The Vedas divide time into 48 minutes periods. Each 48 minutes, psychical atmosphere of space is changed dramatically, and 2 periods before the sun gets into this intermediate condition that is called Sankhya. Look, 12 p.m. is Sankhya. At this moment, energetic flows in the body switch. Our energy moves like this, and when it changes, it flows like this. Energetic flows switch at 12 p.m. They do the same at 6 a.m., 12 a.m. and 6 p.m. If you look at the Earth, it is round and the sun goes around it. You can see that the sun makes the full circle around the Earth. It is 24 hours, and there are 4 periods by 6 hours. They are fixed. At one point, the condition of a human body changes. These are Sankhyas, not moments. You should know that 48 minutes 2 times before 6 a.m. solar time, before sunrise, This period of time is called pearl time to change your fate, because in this time the energies of Sun and Earth are in balance. Your right and left hemispheres are in harmony, and your psyche is calm and focused. You have no worries, and you can really change yourself and your fate. So people who pray for 2 times 84 minutes before 6 a.m. solar time or sunrise achieve success really quickly in this practice. This time is meant for prayer. It makes 2 times 48 about an hour and a half. It's the same time, always. You are speaking about sunrise and sundown. Listen to me attentively again. Look here. When the sun crosses this invisible line of 6 a.m., does it matter if the trajectory is steep or not? Rays of light may come later, but the sun crosses this line at the same time. I will explain to you this line and time. Have you ever seen the sunrise? You can know or feel, especially if you are at a river bank, that when it's 6 a.m. or in Chelyabinsk it is 7:40 a.m., it was all quiet, but in that moment there is some movement, there is wind, and roosters cry really hard. They feel energy movement. I am not talking about light. It is still dark at this hour. Here it is 20 to 8 a.m. when the wind starts to blow. The sun crosses this invisible line and energy flows change in your body. You can calculate it. It's 7:40 in the morning minus 2 times 84 minutes. It is 6:04. So by that time you must be washed and you sit down to meditate. It does not depend on whether it is summer or winter. Summer and winter means that the sun rises at a different time. From this point of view, far north, there is no prayer. The sun does not rise for a few months. It's polar night. The sun does not deviate much from this line. I will describe the whole day to you. In this perfect time, fate does not affect a person. It is all calm. But once the sun crosses this horizon, this invisible line, the sun is Kala Chakra, or the wheel of time. It activates our psyche. When the sun rises, immediately we are anxious because karma is awakened and it is more difficult to pray. At this moment it becomes harder. And other things are recommended. After sunrise, it is good to memorize something. In this time, prana moves in the body, udana goes up when the sun rises, and when the sun goes down, our energy goes down. And then senses activity is activated, especially the moon is rising and it is connected to family and personal life. So when the sun goes down, psyche is relaxed, there is the moon and it's family time. It's natural. There is relaxation and relationships get deeper. Evening is meant for family. And evening spiritual practice is reading together about saints' life, watching some good movies. You do it together. Prayer at this time is more like repentance and forgiving. This is not a deep practice. Deep practice is when you forget everything else. You pray, you only think about holiness. You are immersed in the object that will give you a pattern in your mind to live positively all life, so that nothing could hurt you, so that you could constantly think about the purest, brightest thing inside you. Then your mind is strong. But it is impossible in the evening. Evening is meant to see what happens and be repentant. Bring that to normal in your mind. Evening is meant for repentance, realization and thinking over, to realize what happens. You may say there is an evening prayer, but there is no comparing the results. There is great difference between morning and evening prayer. When do you do yoga? When the sun is rising after prayer, depending on what you mean by yoga. Physical exercises go after sunrise, because there are other types of yoga. Dhyana yoga is like prayer, it is concentration, that's before sunrise. Pranayama also, when prana starts to move. You do pranayama, but everything is asleep. Roosters do not cry. Pranayama means that the sun goes up and prana is activated. There is wind, everything breathes, and in this time you get this pure energy. Moon purifies earth in the night time, and the sun activates everything. Karma is active. The sun has just risen, the earth is pure, and it goes into your consciousness. If you go out in the street at this time and you start to breathe, what happens? All purity of earth is yours. Here is your pranayama. In the evening, depending on what you mean, you get the opposite of earth purity in the evening. But if your practice is different, you try to normalize airflows in your body before sleep, then it's fine. If you contact the environment, the result is wrong. You should not take in evening energy. You just breathe to calm down. That's okay. There are Surya Namaskar and Chandra Namaskar. Surya Namaskar is sun salutation. You meditate on the sunrise. And there is Chandra Namaskar for the moon, when you need energy of love to be pretty and to save your family. You do Chandra Namaskar and meditate on the moon. It gives beauty to women. I know now that night is stronger than the day. Night is women's time. They say it is best to do Tsigun 11 p.m. to 1 a.m.
Ну да, значит, это говорит, вот в это время, то, что вы сказали, это максимальное влияние Луны. Ну, то есть вы говорите о каком цигун сейчас?
What циgun do you mean?
О цигун, который увеличивает энергию
The one
любви в
that
сердце,
gives
дает
love
любовь.
in the heart.
С этой точки зрения, и
From this
если
point of
человек
view,
любовь к
if a
Богу культивирует, он
person
может
wants
ночью
to
молиться тоже
cultivate
со
love
светом
for
Луны.
God, he
И у него
can
вот эта вот
pray at
энергия
night
любви
under
начинает
moon.
в сердце двигаться. Значит, смотря что вы вкладываете,
Depending
чего вы
on
хотите
what you
достичь.
mean and what you want to
Если вы
achieve.
хотите научиться внутрь себя
If you
входить,
want
то тогда
to
это надо утром,
look inside you, you should
вот в это
do
время,
it in
которое
the
я сказал.
morning.
А если вы хотите других
But
целей
if
каких-то
you
достигать, тогда в другое время. Все зависит от
Want
вашей
something
цели.
else, it's different time.
Когда у человека солнце в зените находится,
The
сознание
sun
самое
is
внешнее.
at its highest, the consciousness is external. It is impossible to emerge inside.
Поэтому людям рекомендуется
And
после обеда
afternoon,
работать
after
просто, заниматься
lunch,
делами.
people must just work, do their business.
Для развития себя как личности, для изучения.
Early morning prayer,
день
morning
для
self-improvement,
семьи, ночь для сна.
day for work, evening for family, and night for sleep. In the night, a person is relaxed. Ojas enters our body. It gives us health, lunar energy, rest, ability to live. Strength is restored. But intelligence development is best done in the morning. It's Brahma Muhurta, 2 times 84 minutes before sunrise, solar time. On the equator, it always matches. 6 a.m. is 6 a.m. It is strict. The sun rises at 6 a.m. and it goes down at 6 p.m. Yes, this is about Brahma Muhurta, 4 to 6 a.m. We are speaking about 4 to 6 a.m. solar time. On the equator, the sun rises strictly at 6 a.m. But if it does not mean that there is no sunrise in this place. The sun still crosses this line, although it is visible or not. Far north, the sun barely raises above horizon, and it moves along it really low. And if the trajectory is like this, there is no sunrise at all. I was born in Serov, and there are white nights there. And sometimes it's night, but it is light. You do not have it. That means you are farther south. What more questions do you have? I'm not inclined to express my opinion on some practices, but it is policy of a kind. My approach in life is like this. If you want to know about some practice, ask the person who practices it. When people ask me about Orthodox Christianity, I send them off to priests who have been practicing it their whole life. This is my approach in life. I only speak of things that I know well. And if I express my opinion on something I do not know well, that means I make myself God. In order to form an opinion, you must really emerge seriously. I do not know this practice. If someone taught me, I could have been able to tell you. The Krishnaism is the faith, as you call it, the faith in the bosom of the Vedic culture, and there are many different schools there. Look here, There are scriptures, the Vedas, Quran, Bible. Each scripture is a textbook on spiritual life, and everyone uses them differently. Each way of using the textbook give religion. So there are a lot of religions. If you want to learn about Vedic religions, there is this get-together, a big holiday, religious holiday called Kumbh Mela. It takes place where two rivers merge together, Ganga and Jamuna. This place is called Allahabad. I was there in 2002 or 2003. There was a very big gathering that happens once in 108 years. I went there on purpose. 10 million people attended it, and about 10 meters of the Ganges bank were covered in tents, and in each tent of 20 to 40 square meters there was a religious culture based on the Vedas. You could not have attended it all. Numerous traditions and cultures, thousands of them, and each offers its way to people. They are similar and different, but it all came out of the Vedas. You can say the same about Christianity. Hundreds of different schools, some are more developed, some less. The same with the Quran. There are different schools in Muslim belief and the Torahs. It is all okay. Each person chooses his way. Some schools get developed quickly and become popular, some fade away. If you are talking about some religion, it must always be based on the scriptures tested by time. If someone invented a scripture, then I think that you should not trust it. At least you should study the matter to make sure that it works before you accept it. And studying goes easily. You must make sure that there are saints, holy people in this tradition. Otherwise, it has nothing in common with God. You may say the path is good, but if you do not get purified from sins, that is doubtful. This is my opinion. Something else? This is more practical. Lenin, in his time, issued an order, and in the whole CIS, time was moved 1 hour, and it is still there. So in the whole CIS, time on the watch does not match solar time by 1 time. And we also change it in the summer and winter to consume less electricity. To drive people crazy. Here, the food is digested best at 20 to 2 p.m. So your lunch must have to 1 to 2 p.m. in Chelyabinsk, here. Do we have more time?
До скольки мы?
We have 5 more minutes. That's much.
Ну, понимаете, пост на молоке – это опасный пост.
Milk
Вот, допустим, я
fasting
приведу вам
is
пример, как
dangerous.
мы постились. То есть
I
я в одном
will
святом
tell you
месте, у меня
about
было
how
5
we
человек,
fasted.
мы постились на
We
молоке.
were
То есть
in a holy
молоко
place, there
разбавляется
were
водой,
5 of
добавляется
us.
мед туда, и
You
горячим виде
dilute
пьется весь
milk
день.
with
Пост
water,
на
add
молоке
some honey,
предназначен для
and you
очищения
drink it
сознания.
hot your whole
Через
day.
5 дней, вот мы
We
5 человек
fasted like
постились, мы
this,
так
and we
договорились, что
made
если
an
кому-то плохо
agreement that
станет,
if
мы все
someone
заканчиваем пост.
feels bad, we finish
Вот.
it all
Ну, чтобы
together,
неблагоприятное чувство не
so
возникало.
that there
И
were
через 5
no
дней у
bad
одного
feelings.
достаточно крепкого
And
парня
in 5 days,
началось сильное
one
сердцебиение.
very strong guy got
Неплохо
a
стало. Мы
racing
закончили
heartbeat, and
этот
we
пост.
finished fasting.
Могут проводить, то есть вообще
There are
есть люди,
people
которые
who
вообще на
can
молоке живут.
live off milk,
Понимаете, не каждый организм
but
способен
not
справиться с
everybody
этим
can
постом.
take it,
Это непростой
take this
пост.
fasting.
Потому что
It is
у нас
not
много энергии
easy.
в страсти в организме. Молоко
We
чисто
have a lot
благостный
of
продукт.
passion in
Понимаете,
our
он
body,
предназначен для
and milk
монахов,
is
которые
pure
живут вот такой
goodness.
жизнью, никого
It
не
is meant
видят.
for
Где-то там
monks
сидят в своем монастыре,
who
они
sit
будут
in their
спокойно переносить, потому
monasteries
что
and
молоко
see no
дает
one.
очень сильное
They can
спокойствие
take it
психике. А не
easily.
каждый организм
Milk
способен вот
makes
таком
our
вот стиле
conscience
жить.
very calm, and not everyone can live so
Понимаете, поэтому
peacefully.
пост для молоки это не для всех.
Milk fasting is not for
Иногда,
everyone.
если женщина очень любит
Sometimes,
молоко, и у
if a
нее
woman likes milk
бесплодие,
very much
ей
and
хорошо на
she
молоке
can have no
попаститься, чтобы
children, she
гормональную
can
функцию
milk
активизировать
fast to
женскую, потому
activate
что
her
молоко это
hormonal
лунный продукт,
functions.
и она
Milk is
может
a
так цикл
lunar
наладить
product,
свой и
and it
зачать
can
ребенка. Есть такие
normalize
примеры,
your
когда
periods
женщина
and
постоянно на молоке
conceive.
вот так добивалась
There are
зачатия.
cases like this.
Но женщинам вообще надо молочко
Women
уважать,
should respect
особенно
milk,
сливки. Сливки дают
especially
поднятие
cream.
гормональных функций хороших.
Cream give
С утра,
hormonal
если женщина
functions.
сливки пьет, у
If a
нее
woman drinks
гормончики
cream
работают
in the
хорошо,
morning, her
яичко
hormonal
сладкое,
system
и
works
всем нравится.
well, her face is very sweet, and
Холодно
everyone
на ночь,
likes
если
her.
сильно жарко жить, то можно.
If there is much heat in your body,
Можно
you
холодно на
can
ночь, если люди есть
drink
горячее
cold
настолько,
milk
что
in
они
the
вообще
evening.
горячее молоко не могут пить, только
Some
холодное.
people are so hot they cannot drink hot milk.
Вот смотрите, есть 5 уровней сознания.
There are 5
Есть
levels
анна-майя,
of
то есть
consciousness.
сознание, когда
Anamaya,
человек заботится о
when you
теле.
are
Есть
attached to your
пранамайя,
body.
это гимнастика. Есть
Pranayama
манамайя,
is
это ум.
gymnastics.
Есть
Manamaya
абхидьянамайя,
is
это
mind.
разум. И есть
Vijnanamaya,
анандамайя,
intelligence,
это духовная
and
жизнь. Все
Anandamaya,
ваши
spiritual
вопросы
life.
касаются только
All
питания
your
сейчас.
questions are
На какой
about
платформе
food
вы
now.
находитесь?
What is your platform? What is your consciousness?
Ну, у нас лекция была по разуму сегодня.
This lecture
по
is about
питанию.
intelligence and
Это
not
ж, питание, это
nutrition.
была самая первая лекция, у нас и вторая. Как? Вы первый раз пришли сегодня?
How are
Вот это чувство.
mind and intelligence
Я
different?
объяснял это очень подробно.
Is this your first lecture? Well, I explained it in details. It is good that you ask this question because there is great difference.
Я вам предлагаю послушать
I
мои
suggest
первые
you
лекции.
listen to
Это
my
пятая лекция.
earlier
Вот
lectures.
там описано
This is
подробно.
the
Я сейчас
fifth.
вкратце вам расскажу.
I will
Ум
tell you
это
shortly.
психический остров организма.
Mind
В нем
is the psychical
проходит весь
basis
контроль
of the
организма.
mind.
Согласно
It controls
ведическому
the whole
знанию,
body. According to the
деятельность
Vedic
ума
knowledge,
контролирует прану, психическую
mind
энергию, а
controls
психическая энергия
prana,
контролирует
and
все грубое
prana
тело.
controls our gross body.
То есть ум – это остров организма.
Mind
И,
is the basis of our
образно
body,
сказать, он состоит
and
из характера. То есть ума
it
есть
a
мышление,
kind of consists
ума
of
есть
character. Mind
образное
has
представление,
thinking,
ума есть
has
эмоции,
images,
характер, воля, желание. Это все
emotions,
функции ума.
desires, character. These are all functions of mind.
Как ум мыслит?
And how does mind
Тарцев свой
think?
юморески хорошо представил.
Mind thinks,
Как
but it
ум
has no
мыслит,
goal.
не принимая
There is no
никакую цель.
purpose.
Без разума, мышления, ума
Without
это просто
intelligence,
демагогия.
mind
Траты были
thinking
большие,
is just
да, большие.
demagogy. It just
Вчера были
wanders
маленькие
on some
такие,
thoughts
вчера. Ум не
uselessly.
может ни на чем сосредоточиться.
Mind cannot
Он
get
просто
focused.
размышляет. Он постоянно все
It just
размышляет.
thinks
И память,
and thinks.
хоть это функция разума,
And
но он
although
постоянно
memory
возбуждает
is
ум,
the
потому что
function
память, она
of
связывает ум с энергией
intelligence,
счастья. И он
mind
постоянно
constantly
пользуется памятью для
uses
того, чтобы
memory
размышлять.
to
Он то вспомнил,
reminisce,
то разные впечатления в ум
to
идут. И когда
get
человек, допустим,
different
не пользуется
images,
никак разумом, как, допустим,
and
есть
when
такая
a
форма
person
жизни
does not
бабки
use
возле подъезда.
intelligence, There are these old ladies who just gossip all the time. Once in Riga, I passed such old ladies by, and their mind was instantly switched to me, and they discussed my experience, my glasses, my boldness. That's mind activity. There was no intelligence there during that discussion. Because when someone else passed by them, they discussed him. They just occupied their mind. Intelligence functions are different. In our mind there is also karma. Family, relationships, and kindred feeling is the energy of mind. Like and dislike are in our mind. Happiness and sorrow, these are functions of our mind. What is intelligence? Intelligence has a goal in life. It reaches for this goal, and it is called decisiveness. Intelligence has faith, which is understanding of the goal. Because higher than faith there is a clear of view or achievement of goal. That is all in our intelligence. Intelligence feeds mind with happiness. It's the source of happiness. And mind always keeps intelligence busy in search for happiness. Mind demands happiness, and a person picks a goal in life, for example, to build a house. When there is construction, there is happiness. And when the person feels sad, he thinks about his house and he feels better. But if construction stops, there is stress. The person loans money, he wants happiness, he wants to build his house. He cannot wait anymore. He needs happiness right now. Intelligence has ability to know or not to know. Intelligence is made of knowledge. Knowledge controls our life. If a person knows something, he calms down. If he doesn't, he is worried. Intelligence has knowledge. It has misapprehension that makes him move to knowledge, and correct apprehension that gives peace. There is memory that attaches intelligence to the truth, or memory can attach us to negativity, and then a person degrades. In negativity, mind feels bad and he starts to rebel. Do you see the difference? When a person goes mad, his basis of life, this basis of psyche is destroyed, and that is really bad. When a person loses his intelligence, that is also bad, but it can be restored. For example, a person starts to drink. Did he lose his mind or intelligence? Intelligence. His goal is vodka. And if vodka does not let you work, give up this work. Vodka is the goal. The person has lost his intelligence, but if he continues to drink, he gets alcoholic mania. At this point, he can lose his mind and never come back. He will be in a loony house for life. When a person loses his mind, his perception of the world is broken. But when intelligence is lost, the person cannot control himself. He degrades. Functions of intelligence are responsibility, ability to self-improve, will, decisiveness, enthusiasm, bravery. These are all functions of intelligence, and the person that drinks loses these functions. Alcoholism destroys intelligence, and that is the danger of it. Not that health is ruined. Intelligence is ruined much worse. It is ruined at once, at drinking.
Немножко объяснил вам, что такое разум.
These are mind and intelligence in short. Memory is developed when you have enthusiasm, when you are engaged. You must develop memory in the morning hours when it is easy, and to do that you must have enthusiasm. In the Vedas there is Mangala Charan. For example, before you read a lecture on some topic, you must say about the importance of this topic and glorify it. Before starting this lecture, I gave you the statistics, and it was Mangala Charan. It is needed to invoke enthusiasm and interest in people. When people have interest, their memory is activated. They are interested and they memorize it for life. If you want to develop your memory, you must have interest. You must meet a person who is really interested in it. For example, you want to study a foreign language. You must find a fanatic of this language. You want to learn English. You meet this person, he looks at you. You want to study English. I'm so happy to see you. And he starts blah 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 and all English, and you start to speak. In 5 minutes you will memorize English really well, because he fills your psyche with this sweet taste of studying English. There is memory when a person has a strong, sweet taste for activity. If you want to go to some islands, you should speak to a person who has already been there. He tells you everything. You go there, you see it all, and you feel happy. And it is even better to have an enthusiastic guide, and you will memorize it all. There is some trip, and there is such a nice guide. He tells you about all sides. He fills you with information, and you will remember it for life. You will take pictures. Here is the Eiffel Tower. Can a person have several religions? Religion is a path. It is a method. Religion is the same as a textbook on math. There is a teacher who teaches you by this book. You can study math without this textbook, but it's difficult. Religion is cool, and studying is mind development. And now I have a question for you. Can a person have many schools? He may, but it is not effective. He studies in a few schools. If he is a genius, it may work out, but most likely he will get confused. There may be many when you are a starter. First you look for schools. You mark the ones you're interested in, you visit these schools. You check how it is. You study different schools, but then you must pick one. First, a person is interested in different philosophies, he studies everything. Just like a girl, she chooses and chooses, and then, my heart, you are so restless. There are so many nice girls, but only one is in my heart. It's the same with faith. There are many good faiths, but one gets in your heart, and it's the only one that touches you. A person cannot go a spiritual path unless he has enthusiasm in his heart. Once your heart is touched, you will go there. Where can you get spiritual music? In your faith, or just spiritual music. Search it on the internet. There are different types. There are just meditations.
Был такой ансамбль Space.
There was this space band. They took meditative melodies and recorded it. It is meditation, a kind of spiritual music. There are church singers, there are bhajans in the Vedic culture, there are hymns in different cultures, religious hymns. It all is spiritual music. It is the one that has the goal, and the goal is God and holiness or happiness. If your goal is happiness, you have meditative music. You do not address God, but the energy of happiness. That's also spiritual music. Meditative. But there is music that makes you go in the opposite direction, not up but down. That is not spiritual. For example, my friend has a birthday, she turns 30. That is not spiritual. Or this.
Куда энергия идет?
Where does the energy go?
Что двигается?
What moves?
Попа двигается.
Your bottom is moving
потому что энергия вниз идет.
Because the energy goes down to your lower centers. But when there is spiritual music, people raise their hands and dance like that. The energy goes up. When you play the music, test it. Up spiritual, down not spiritual. Names of gods, that is incorrect. If a person thinks there are many gods, then he's goodbye. There is only one God. You can chant names of God. There are different meditations and prayers. Sometimes people pronounce some strong sounds that are connected to different psychical centers. Klim is an energy of fire. I saw an amazing video on the internet. One person got very expert on this Klim. He pointed his finger, he said, Klim, Klim, and with his finger he set paper on fire. He burned a hole in paper. He did it to one person and burned him. There was a burn mark left. These are mantras. Mantra, man is mind, tra means practice or method. This is a method for your mind. Not all mantras are directed at God. This mantra Klim is not, but it is there, and it focuses your mind. That person could really burn. It does not develop your intelligence. It only gives you abilities. That is also intelligence, but misdirected. It is best to aim at God or happiness. There are silent meditations when the person sits down and immerses in himself. He develops energy of happiness. But if a person chants a prayer or names of God, he goes towards a personality. There are impersonal meditations and personal. Both give you ability to defeat fate. Yes, I was born in time of atheism, and so I chant Soviet songs all the time. The first question. What Vedas? Mostly I cite Srimad Bhagavatam. That is the best text of Vyasadeva sage who Veda Vyasa.
Krishna Dvapayana Vyasa, то есть его
Krishna Dvapayana Vyasa is his name. He is Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva means editor. He edited the Vedas about 5,120 years ago. He lived on this earth and he edited all the 4 Vedas. Before there was only one Veda, he divided it in 4. To study them better, he had 4 disciples and they passed these 4 Vedas on. But Vyasadeva was not satisfied and he wrote another Vedic work, Vedanta Sutra. Sutra means essence. It gave the essence of all Vedic knowledge, but even then he was dissatisfied and he wrote another work, a very powerful historical epos called Mahabharata. There are 100,000 verses. It is a fundamental historical work that described history of that time in details. And still he was unsatisfied because he needed to give people some powerful method to elevate them and to give knowledge. And then came his culminating work called Srimad Bhagavatam. There are 16,000 verses in it and it describes many things. For example, the structure of our whole universe of solar system. It even describes as in ancient times the size of atom was calculated easily. It describes the soul, what spiritual life is. It even describes how a baby feels in the womb of a mother. There are so many interesting things there. This work is fundamental and it gives self-realization called Srimad Bhagavatam. Vyasadeva is the main compiler of the Vedic scriptures and his works are the most true. But there are more Vedic texts because before him there were more. Vyasadeva's father Parashara also compiled a few Vedic works. And there are many more. For another 2,000 years there were different works on practical aspects. There are Upa-Vedas. Upa means practical side. There is Vedic astrology, Jyotish, that describes influence of planets on fate. It is a powerful scientific work. In fact, there are many, and they give such scientific facts that present-time scientists only start to discover. It has not been long since we determined the size of planets in the solar system. These sizes are given in few ancient works on Jyotish, and the figures are almost the same. But the Vedic astrology also gives such facts that we cannot even dream about. For example, it states that the sun moves with the solar system along a circle, and in 1 year the sun makes a full circle. And knowing the distance from the sun to the moon and to some other stars, these ancient Vedic scientists calculated the diameter of sun trajectory, and they know which part of the universe the sun occupies, and by knowing about other stars they calculated distance to them. They were very versed in these matters. They knew the size of the solar system and other galaxies that exist in our universe. It is very interesting to read. Their scientific view of the world is very interesting. And what astonished me also, they describe the subtle body in details, and our subtle body. I spent 15 years to practice part of this knowledge, and now these subtle channels, or highways as I call them, dhatus, shells, I've studied them. I showed you how I diagnose it, where chronic diseases are. I learned it all from the Vedic knowledge. And also there are fundamental works on Ayurveda. Ayurveda means science of life. It's Vedic medicine. There are descriptions of social structure. There is Vedic mathematics that teaches to calculate without a calculator. It is easy to calculate big figures. You can find it on the internet. There is some explanation. It's a whole system, a whole mathematical school. And so on. There are many different parts of this knowledge. There is Tantra. It allows you to control this world. For example, Tantra gives you knowledge of forming clouds to get rain. It is done with sound. There are many interesting mystical things, but most people are unable to master it because they do not have this psychical energy. And there are many cheaters who pretend they can do it all, especially in India. But it is a natural process. Why affecting clouds? You think so? Is it your hypothesis or a statement? Sometimes there is a drought. And when it happens, cereals and vegetables cannot grow, and there is famine. And so that there was no drought and no climate calamities, people could summon rain. They controlled the weather, and also if it is sunny at day and rainy at night, then people's health improves naturally. For example, people who live near mountains, and the weather is like that there. In the evening, water evaporates and gathers, and then it rains at night. And because the humidity is high at night, and they sleep in that time, and at day it's sunny, people are much healthier. This climate is healthy, and in the ancient culture, they did it so it rained at night and it was sunny at day. When it rains at night, vegetables grow really fast because they grow in the moon. And at day, cereals grow well because they need sun. In other words, this natural order gives health to people and gives big harvests. So climate was under control. But we have our theory. Let it be as it is, and we will live as we can. What goals do women have? We will talk about it in the evening, my evening lectures. Come there. There is a big audience, 600 people, and we discuss the purpose of a human life. It's 8:30. Today is the latest lecture.
Нет, нет, это
It
в
is
ДК железный, как
in a different hall.
ЧТЗ. Тракторный завод. Да? Психика, разум атрофируется.
Then intelligence is
А
atrophied.
надо делать не с подростками. Вы поймите,
You
вот
must not
смотрите,
do
сейчас
it
я вам
with
расскажу, как разум работает у
adolescents.
подростков.
How
Подростки, у
does
них разум
intelligence work
недоразвит. А
in
недоразвитый разум всегда
adolescence?
зависит от
It
атмосферы,
is
в которой находится
underdeveloped
человек.
and they
Вот,
depend
допустим, если
greatly
атмосфера
on the
расслаблена, вот мама
environment.
дома болтает по
For
телефону,
example,
приходит
it is
домой,
relaxed
вечером
atmosphere
болтает
at
по
home.
телефону, папа
A mother
смотрит
comes home
телевизор.
and chats on the
Понимаете,
phone, and
атмосфера
the father
расслаблена вся.
watches
И ребенку в это
TV.
время
It
говорят,
is all
учи уроки.
idle. And the parents tell
Атмосфера
their child,
расслаблена.
go study
Вот
your
если вы
lessons.
пробовали, допустим, когда
But
все
the
спят, вставать с
atmosphere
постели,
is
то что
relaxed.
происходит? Все
Did you
спят,
try
вы
to
встали.
get up when
И дальше
everyone
что вы
is
сделали?
asleep?
Упали
You get
назад.
up and then you
Потому что
fall back to
психика очень
sleep
сильно зависит
because
от
the
человека, от
psyche is very
атмосферы, в которой он
dependent
находится.
on
Даже у
atmosphere,
взрослого, не
even
говоря
in
уже о
grown-ups.
ребенке. И
What
когда
to
все
speak of
балдеют,
children?
ходят дома, ребенку
And when
говорят,
the
учи
parents
уроки. Что он
enjoy and
делает?
tell their child to study lessons, what does he do?
Балдеет тоже. А как дети
He also
балдеют?
enjoys. How do
Дети
children
балдеют в виде
enjoy?
игры.
They
Ребенку нужна
play.
игра.
Children
А так как на
need to
улице сейчас не
play.
поиграешь, потому что
And as they
культура
cannot
меняется. Вот
play
когда я был
outside,
ребенком, мы играли в
when
футбол
I
в
was a
детстве.
child,
Я
we
постоянно
played
гонял футбол.
football.
Это
We
тоже
ran all the
как бы не
time.
самый лучший
That is not
времяпровождение, но
the
это детство,
best
понимаете? Ребенок
way
должен
to spend
развиваться.
time, but
Мы
it's
играли в
childhood.
футбол, играли в
Children need
хоккей,
to
догонялки
develop.
с
We
брызгалками,
played
понимаете? Мы
football
развивались.
and hockey.
Сейчас
We developed.
культура меняется, и
And now
дети
the culture is
играют уже не в
different,
футбол,
and
а в футбол играют
children play
эти вот электронные
computer football.
футболисты, понимаете? То
It's
тоже
also a
движение, но только
movement,
уже
but in
банда
the brain.
сидит. Тоже футбол играет, но не ножками, понимаете?
It is also
Это называется
football, but
деградация
legs are
культуры.
not involved. That's
Так как
degradation.
мы позволяем это
As
делать,
we allow
дети
this,
неразумные существа.
children
Они
are
идут на
not
поводу того, что
intelligent.
происходит.
They
Вот когда у
follow
нас
their
был социализм,
surrounding.
то какие мультики
In
выходили?
Soviet times,
Вместе
what
весело
cartoons
шагать
did we
по
have?
просторам.
It is so
Понимаете?
nice to walk together.
Про дружбу,
Cartoons
про
were
любовь,
about
про
friendship,
долг
love,
там, и так
and
далее.
duty.
Выходили мультики нравственные, и дети
These
все
were
эти
moral
мультики впитывали и
cartoons,
развивались. Сейчас
and
контроля
children got
нет над
developed.
тем, что
And now there is no
детям
control.
даются вот эти все игры,
Children
даются все вот
have
деструктивные
these
все эти мультики, там
computer
берутся,
games,
бегают все. Как
destructive
дети развиваются?
cartoons. What do
Если
children
государство не
get
контролирует
if
процесс
the government does
информации,
not
какая информация
control
заходит в сознание
information?
вашим детям, кто
What
должен контролировать?
children get?
Государство
Who
не
should do
контролирует.
it?
Кто должен контролировать? Вы должны контролировать.
You should do it.
Вы
Parents
должны
should.
ограничить своего ребенка
You should
от
protect your
той
child
информации,
from
которая не нужна
information
ему.
that he does not
Это
need.
делается очень просто.
It
Надо
is easy to
собрать
do. You must
ту информацию, которая нужна,
collect information
и
that is
заинтересовать его этим.
needed,
Если вы
and
хотите,
you
чтобы
must
ребенок
interest
хочет
him
смотреть
in
мультики,
it.
соберите нравственный
Your
мультик.
child wants to watch
Если ребенок
cartoons,
хочет, допустим, играть в
select
компьютерные
moral
игры, сейчас уже
cartoons.
появляются
And
компьютерные
there
игры,
even are
которые
good
дают человеку
computer
нравственность.
games now that teach morality.
Понимаете? Ну, то есть надо то же самое использовать
There is a method in Ayurveda.
что то же самое, что приводит человека к болезни,
What
в
leads a
маленьких
person
дозах
to
становится лекарством.
illness in small dosage is a
Выберите
medicine.
способ, как это использовать в хороших
Use it
целях,
in a
и
good
будет
way,
хороший результат.
and you will
Но
get
лучше всего
good
ребенку
result.
отдавать секцию. Если
But it
на
is
улице
best
футбол не
to
играют,
let your
надо
child
его
do
запихать в
sports.
какую-нибудь
If
подвижную
there is
секцию,
no
чтобы он
football
правильно
outside,
развивался. Потому что вот это
allow
развитие
your
внутри
child to
компьютера, оно
move
приводит к шизофрении
with
обычно.
other children, because computer
Это не
makes
внутренняя жизнь. Это не
schizophrenics. It
внутренняя
is not
жизнь.
inner
Внутренняя жизнь
life.
означает, человек своей
Inner
силой
life
воли
means
побеждает судьбу.
a person
А это
overcomes
что такое?
his
Это
fate
когда
with
человек
the
зависит от
willpower,
чего-то, он в зависимости.
and computer is
Он даже какать
addiction.
не будет ходить,
He
потому
won't
что ему
even
будет
go
очень
to
интересно.
poop because he's so
У него будут
interested.
запоры развиваться
He
и
will
всё
be
прочее.
constipated and
У
everything.
меня, к сожалению,
Unfortunately,
есть проблема.
it's
есть
my
проблема, к
problem.
сожалению,
I
очень
talk
много
too
говорю.
much.
Да?
In short,
И второй вопрос.
The second question is the earth hollow?
Почему полая? Кто
Why
сказал,
is
что она
it?
полая?
Who said that?
Земля круглая.
The earth is round.
По Кали-юге
Kali Yuga,
5100 с лишним лет назад она
it
началась.
started
Лет
5,100 something years ago.
400
It lasts for
30 тысяч лет.
132 years.
Конец света будет не скоро.
The end of the world is not so near.
5000 только прошло, а 430 тысяч должно пройти.
Only 5,000 years have passed.
432, да. Ну ладно, я рад вас всех видеть.
I'm
Спасибо
very
вам,
glad
что
to
вы
see
меня
you all.
выслушали.
Thank you for listening to
Вот.
me.
Спасибо, извините за то, что мы задержались.
I'm sorry for
Что-то меня
the
понесло.
delay. I got too
Всё,
talkative.
до свидания, счастливо.
Goodbye.